have extreme violence against vulnerable social groups. Part of this violence is perpetrated by state agents.
Please work with us through our partners so that our voice will be heard, so that impact can be made, so that our rights can be restored.
Welcome to this webinar, Supporting Democracy in the Wake of Civil War. Today we're going to have a conversation with representatives on civil society in Liberia and Colombia. We will also have representatives from the embassies in Monrovia and Bogota working at CIDA with us today. My name is Anna Stenvinkel and I'm the Secretary General of Forum Civ. Liberia is slowly being rebuilt after a long civil war. The country is rich in natural resources, but there are many conflicts between large companies and smallholders who are losing their land and forced from their homes, often with inadequate compensation. Many people are left without means to support themselves. Liberia was also hit hard by the Ebola outbreak a few years ago. Widespread corruption and low confidence for the state is hampering the fragile democracy. In Colombia, there is an increase in criticism towards the implementation of the peace agreement. After 5 decades of civil war, the expectation of lasting peace were high when the peace agreement was concluded in 2016. Expectations that have now turned into frustration. Armed conflicts, little or no state control in remote territories, land conflicts, drug trafficking, escalating threats and violence towards social leaders and human rights defenders are threatening the democratic development. And added to that, of course, is the very negative impact of the coronavirus situation. So how can we work with democracy and human rights in these contexts? Today, we will listen to Janet Pay, who is the Executive Director of Women Care Initiative in Liberia, Francisco Guterres, Director and Land Restitution Observatory in Colombia, and we also have Göran Paulsson, Counselor and Head of Development Cooperation at the Embassy of Sweden in Bogota, and Charles Lawrence, National Program Officer for Democratic Governance and Human Rights at the Embassy of Sweden in Monrovia. Warmly welcome to all 4 of you. So, Janet and Francisco, what would you say would be the biggest human rights challenge for you in your countries? Or the challenge, or that would say, to sort of have human rights and democracy. What is the biggest thing for you? Could we start with you, Janet? What would you say?
Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Janet, and I'm the Executive Director of Women Care Initiative, Liberia. And I work in the western region part of Liberia, that is Bomi, Cape Mount, Bapulu counties, and we work with women promoting human rights and women's rights issues. We also work with people with disabilities as well. And as you rightly asked, our challenges, or what are the challenges we have seen and observed, or we try to address, there are a lot of challenges. First, in the land right issue, as you just stated, there are a lot of illegal accusation of customary land rights or lands by some powerful elites in that region part of Liberia. Why am I saying? There are people who feel they have money, their connections, and their positions. They use it to acquire these lands that belong to communities. And then the other challenges are women who use these lands to make farms, to support their families. They lose these lands because these rich guys, as we just started, will come and buy these lands, and they will lose all of their lands. They have nothing to work on. And we also have the issue of democratic or for human respect for human rights as respect to women participation in politics. Women have limited resources and they have financial constraints in promoting their political ambitions. And we also have for corruption, the full implementation of laws or politics that will help us carry out this implementation of the policies that are related for fighting corruption are some challenges that we face as civil society in Liberia.
Great, thank you so much for this, Janet. What would you say, Francisco? What would it be the biggest challenge for you in Colombia?
5 problems. First of all, the implementation of the peace accord has been a disaster. By the way, also gender-wise. Second, you have a sharp increase in violent events, massacres, homicides, attacks against civilians, also by security agencies of the state, you name it. Third of all, quite impressive remobilization. I have to be very clear at the point that the FARC leadership has declared it will not return to armed action. This is positive. That a myriad of splinter groups have appeared and developed in the countryside. Besides, we have still another guerrilla, the ELN, which is quite active, and rather large paramilitary successor groups. So all in all, we have around, of course, this changes according to the source, but between 6,000, 7,000 and 9,000, 10,000 people in arms, which is already quite alarming. Third of all, fourth, we have extreme violence against vulnerable social groups. I have to say that part of this violence is perpetrated by state agents or by of course, also by non-state actors, sometimes in alliance with state agents. So this is seeming alarmingly similar to the good old times of the 1990s, etc., and also a public discourse legitimizing extreme forms of violence. And the last point is that land issues remained unsolved. Actually, there are strong trends and dynamics favoring the concentration of land. In Colombia, we have a reasonable diagnosis, which has not been fully proved. I have to say that it's quite reasonable that political violence is deeply grounded on land inequality. And if this is so, then we have all the conditions for the reproduction of violent dynamics in Colombia.
Great, thank you so much for sharing, Francisco, as well. So what would you say now, first Charles and then Göran, to the things now that Janet and Francisco has shared with us? What's your reflections about this, Charles, for the situation in Liberia?
Thank you, and thanks, Janet, for the reflection that you have shared. And I think to add to the picture that you have presented, I just also wanted to say that there is also positive energies in the society, from civil society, that are actively working to address some of these things, these problems that you have mentioned, especially organizations that are led by women, including young women. So this gives a lot of hope. On the question of land reform, I can say that Sweden had been very keen in its support to Liberia, and this support has started from 2011, so it was a very kind of long-term thinking, and Liberia therefore had made some progress. There is now a Land Rights Act that for the first time in the history of the country afford legal rights to customary people, their right to land. It will take some time from when this act has been enacted to when the reality on the ground will change. And that's where Janet is very correct, that support Sweden now through the Swedish Lantmäteriet is providing technical assistance to the Liberian Land Authority to enable it meet the demands that will come from communities that are now on the pathway to have legal claim to their land rights. And when this happens, it will revolutionize, I think, how investments, how agriculture and different things are being done, and local communities will truly be empowered. It will be a lot of steps that need to be taken. And the risks that Janet had rightly identified is the risks that when the LLA, the Liberian Land Authority, do not have adequate capacity to address these needs for the community formalization of their land, it will open room to more conflict and confusion, but also risks that elites may continue to capture community land rights. So this is a very interesting stage, I think, where things are. The act took a lot of time to get introduced and approved by Liberia legislature. And civil society must be commended for the role that they have played. One of the things that civil society had pushed for is for women to have same right as men in the realization of right to land. So on paper, this is the reality, but there definitely are structural challenges coming from societal attitudes that still disempowered women and having the same access to land. So this is also keyly part of the Swedish support, that women are also part of the administration of land, and building competence and capacity in the technical services for land also includes women. And when communities organize committees to manage land, which is the ambition of the act, that these committees include women, we're very pleased that I think in one or two of these communities, they have elected women to head these community land committees. So hope is there. But yes, it is. I agree with Janet that it is a challenging context. Maybe I may conclude by just mentioning also that we share the conclusion that women political participation has been challenged in Liberia, despite Liberia has had the first female president and therefore created a lot of momentum in this area. This has, in a way, declined, and efforts are being made again, I think, on the side of civil society, that the law is kind of reformed so that political parties give at least 50% of their candidate seats to women. This is in line with international standard, and this is something that is still yet being debated, and this is something that Sweden encourages and supports here in Liberia. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for this answer, Charles. Now we will get back a bit later to that as well. But now I'd like to hear Göran. What would your comments be of what we heard Francisco talk about and the challenges in Colombia?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, Janet and Francisco and Charles. Very interesting reflections. Thank you very much. And greetings from Bogota. I agree, really. Of course, a problem in Colombia is that we have a peace agreement from 2016 after more like 50 years of conflict. And there is a history of long-term history of solutions, violence and killings and the long-term conflict. And that is, of course, an enormous challenge. We have a peace agreement between the state, the government, and the FARC guerrilla. And one challenge I see is that FARC has not been transformed to a real strong political force in a democratic party. It is a democratic party, but it's far too weak. So that is an enormous challenge to really manage. That is part of the implementation of the peace agreement and the difficulties. So there is a lack of political will. There is a lack of an alternative political force, democratic force, and there is a lack of kind of vision for the country to have a sustainable peace. So the peace agreement is very important, of course, and we support very strongly the implementation of it, but it's not enough. The conflict goes on. So the root causes of the conflict, they are the same. They have not been solved. And that is, as I see it, the main challenge. And there you have, of course, things like organized crime, illegal economy, corruption, impunity, etc., etc. Lack of state presence in the conflict areas. That was the idea with the peace agreement. There are also very important to do important reforms, and that is still needed to be done. We are working on also on important issues like land issues, legalization of land, etc. Tax reforms. There are many important political reforms. There are many reforms that are needed to really tackle the root causes of the conflict. Meanwhile, we are all working together. We are supporting human rights. We are supporting presence in the conflict areas where you don't have a state presence. So we as Sweden, together with colleagues in civil society, we are supporting human rights strongly. We are supporting the implementation of the peace agreement. We are supporting that there is an international presence in the territories to protect and to prevent violations towards human rights. But still, it's going on. So that is my analysis a little bit, that the problem is that the root causes has not been tackled. They are still there. They are the same. And then we have a peace agreement with a kind of weak national ownership, very strongly supported by international community. The agreement, the reality of the agreement, the realization of the agreement, and the implementation we support strongly also. But you need strong, important reforms in Colombia. So it comes back to political parties, to democracy, to a vision for the country to sustain sustainable peace. Saying that, I understand it's not easy for any government because the illegal economy is so strong and so big, and there's so much money involved in the drug traffic and in other businesses, illegal businesses in the country. So that is my reflection.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this, Göran. It's really, really interesting. Good to hear your reflections about what Francisco said. So, Janet and Francisco, now when you heard representatives of the Swedish government talk and giving reflections of what you said, and also talking about what Sweden is doing and the Swedish government, is that the kind of support you would like to see? Are you lacking anything? Do you think Sweden can do more? And what could that be in that case? So what's your reflections of what you just heard Charles and Göran talk about? Janet, would you care to start?
Yes, I got him well. Thank you so much for the reflection. And when it comes to the land issue he just spoke about, that's a very sticky and serious issue for us now in Liberia, because we don't want to return to civil war. And if those issues are not addressed adequately, we might likely return to that, because right now people are just buying lands, especially the customary lands, and especially females. If you were born that you are 3, 4, 5 females to a family, and you have just a brother, that brother will be the one to head the properties, especially the land. And then you, as a daughter, the family will say you will get married and you will own your husband's property. And in a community, as a female, you want to do some work on the customary land, you are deprived of it. And then other youths, like strangers, also the same. And then you see those with money will come and buy almost all of the lands. And sooner or later, if this is not addressed, there will be an issue rising up again, which we don't want to return to it. And then in the House of Representatives or Parliament, where there are women who will be elected to lead the country, if we have more percentage of women into the House of Representatives or the Senate, they will speak on behalf of the women. But as we speak, there's just one female senator in the House and 7 representatives from different counties and districts. So what become of us women issue? Our issues will never be addressed adequately with the huge number of percentage of men in the legislature. This is a serious problem for us. And then when the issue of corruption comes, especially the land issue we're talking about, is another huge issue of corruption. Who will talk for us as women? So we need a backup, as the Swedish embassy representative just spoke. We need a backup. We need somebody that will come and empower us as women organization and civil society that will move into the rural communities, talk about our issues, talk to the legislature, so they will see us as their counterparts and allow us a space where we can make them or make people to hear our issue and have it adequately addressed, or else we'll be left on the side, which we don't want to see it. Right now, you go at the local levels, you want to see women as political party cheerleaders, but they do not put us on the front page where women will become party chairman or chairperson. We are only there at the backyard. Many women will apply, but because we do not have the financial means to clean up there, they will step on us. Right now, the election has just took place. A lot of women will step upon because of money. We do not believe in bribing. We do not believe in the brown envelopes. We believe in actuality and accountability, because we are women. We are afraid of shame and embarrassment. Therefore, we are not given a space to get into the legislature. So when it come to this issue we're talking about, who will talk for us? Women talk for women. We have some he for she who talk for us, but we are not empowered. So we are calling on our partners who will come and work with the women community to address some of these issues by training us, by even talking to our counterparts, by empowering us financially. And then, then some of these things will be seen and working for with the implementation of these policies that we are talking about. Liberia got go policies, but the implementation are the problem. They are not implemented to the fullest. And even the judiciary, where we depend on them, some of them are already linked to corruption. So who will talk for us? So how will these things be issues be addressed? Those who are linked, how can they be prosecuted when judiciary branch is linked to corruption? So they are serious problems. So thank you for what you just stated, that you standing there working for us, working with us, civil society. We're looking forward to you really coming to work with us or through 4C or whatever representative you have in Liberia to help us address this issue. The issue of the FPRC, which is a free prior informed consent. These things are overlooked. We don't see concession areas, people come and work, just move into the lands, into the butchers, and they start to plant their rubbers, their palm plantations, without consulting the actual owner of these lands. They will just get one or two women who will go sit there, who cannot even talk, who don't even know the issue to be addressed. And their prior concern, informed concern issue need to really be looked at. So thank you again. We look forward to working with you, coming to empower us more, working with the civil society on Liberia and women as well, and youth, even people with disability. They cannot own land now, especially the customary land. We don't have part into it. It's a serious issue. Please work with us through our partners who are here at the frequency, so that our voices can be heard, so that impact can be made, so that our rights can be restored as women, youth, and the disabled.
Thank you so much, Janet, for these very, very valuable words. And we will, of course, do our best to also be part of this empowerment as you are speaking about, among things of empowering women and youth and so on. So thank you so much. And now I'd like to hear, Francisco, what would your takings be for what you heard from Göran? Is this a support you see is good, or would you have any other expectations of the Swedish government?
First of all, sorry that I can't pronounce your name. I ignore the Swedish language. But I know I have to say that I like very much this intervention, and I think that the position of the Swedish embassy in Colombia is very, very positive, an extremely positive attitude towards the peace process, intervening in critical issues like land, like human rights, etc., etc. I would simply throw some ideas that I think would contribute to this. That a lot is being done, and it's hugely helpful. So the first idea is continue visibilizing the support for the victims of the conflict. In recent days, I think that 2 or 3 days ago, the Swedish embassy adopted the initiative of speaking and publicly visibilizing their support for the Madres de Soacha. These are the mothers of the victims of extrajudicial executions. I think this type of visible public support, maybe with more media intervention, is hugely important in this moment. Second, I think that Sweden has the skills and the legitimacy to make a bit more emphasis on gender issues. Gender-wise, the implementation of the peace accord is absolutely miserable, despite the fact that there's a lot written in the accord about gender, that you simply don't see the gender dimension, starting with females that belong to the park, and ending with, for example, the illegal crop substitution program. This takes me in third place to the crop substitution program. Here there are really big issues. I think that we Colombians and also the international actors simply do not know how to do this thing. the results are very poor. I think we have to start to think about how, why should we substitute crops and in which manner, maintaining peasant economies. So I think here there's a lot to think. Sweden has taken also very positive initiatives, if I am not wrong, even supporting the cadastre, etc., formation of a cadastre in Colombia. What I would suggest is that it might make sense in this context to promote the formation of party cadres throughout the political spectrum who are aware of land issues and who have land skills, etc., through party formation. And the last thing is this is an experience that worked very well in the Central American wars, in, if I understand also in the ex-Yugoslavia, and I think it fits well the Colombian context. Some programs based on peace conditionality. So working not so much with national authorities, but with subnational authorities to promote the formation of party cadres throughout the political spectrum who are aware of land issues and who have land skills, etc., through party formation. And the last thing is this is an experience that worked very well in the Central American wars, in, if I understand also in the ex-Yugoslavia, and I think it fits well the Colombian context. Some programs based on peace conditionality. So working not so much with national authorities, but with subnational authorities, those subnational authorities which can demonstrate that they are really linked with these programs and trying to do well, and then linking with them and supporting this. I think this can give a visible signal, a public signal that supporting peace can be helpful and can help local authorities to do well. So I think I would throw those suggestions that once again I would end saying that the Swedish embassy has been a very important reference in this process of trying to escape from our political violence dynamics.
Great, thank you so much for this, Francisco. And now we are sort of trying to summon this up. And I just want to ask you, Charles and Göran, now by listening to the reflections from Janet and Francisco, and obviously the Swedish embassies are doing quite a lot in Liberia and Colombia. But do you have one thing you actually will bring with you from this webinar that you will start work even more with after this? You have 30 seconds each. Would you care to start, Charles?
Yes, I can see that the question around land rights reform that Sweden is supporting in Liberia is in the right place. But I think from the reflection from Janet, it seems also that this support to communities' right to land is something that will be needed more attention, I think. And what that would mean, of course, Sweden is working on both the demand side, working with the duty bearers, and then on the supply side, the demand side, the civil society, and on the supply side with the state. I think what I would take away is that yes, this work can come together in a very good way. Forum Seed, for example, has addressed a land rights conference with rural women, and part of this was to generate information and knowledge from rural women that has been presented to the president. So, and we are lucky at the embassy where we have a very strong ambassador who has elevated political dialogue at different levels with the state. So follow up on the outcome of the Women Rights Conference that have landed to the president's decks will be something that I would take away. If there's one concrete action that we can do to see that we can generate more interest from the state and what can be done with the information and recommendations that have been put forward by rural women regarding their right to land. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Charles. And I'm super happy that you mentioned this conference because we are very, very proud of that one within Forum Civ, with this first land rights conference for women in Liberia, rural women. Thank you so much. So Göran, what would your takings be from this? 30 seconds You have to answer that.
It was very, very important to listen to you, and thank you very much, Francisco. If I have to choose, I mean, I would like to say that we are together with civil society, UN and EU. We have to act different platforms together with others. We are only one embassy and a small country, but we can act together with others. So it's very important. We are doing a lot of things, but change is not coming in real. So I think the issue of peace, conditionality, and the public signal to contribute to that kind of signal is what I will bring with me. That we as development cooperation, we can't change this country. It must come from within the country. And we are willing to support actors of change, etc. And we do that, but the change needs to come. So public signal and the issues of peace conditionality, I think, is fundamental, because without peace, there will be no respect for human rights and no democratic, economic, social development as we want to see in Colombia.
Great, thank you so much for that, Göran. And by this, I would like to say a very warm thank you to all of you, Janet, Francisco, Göran, and Charles, for taking part in this webinar. It has been very, very interesting. And I think we have some very strong words here with empowerment and act together in these very, very hard issues. But we will do that, and we will not give up. We will keep work for a better world with more human rights and a lot of democracy. Thank you so much for listening.